All right. So go ahead and turn in your Bibles, if you would, to Revelation 13. There is a lot of information in Revelation. This is that book that has caught people's attention, even non-believers. You know, last year, we had all those natural disasters and earthquakes and hurricanes all at the same time, and you had all these secular people going, "Oh, is it the end of time?" And I'm like, you need to worry if it's not, whether it's the end of time or not, because the end is coming for you eventually.
But you also see how people are just all about themselves. Me, myself, and I. Loving myself.
Yeah.
Chris,
Yeah.
is that the reason that there's not many pastors that will preach on Revelation?
You know,
That's hard for me to understand.
I've never went to a church that had that issue. Usually they would do something special, kind of like us moving into Bible study.
Yeah.
But as far as being afraid to touch the book of Revelation, I've never experienced that. But yeah, there's a lot that won't touch the book of Revelation. I've been doing a lot of, guys know I do a lot of study. And it's been doing a lot of study on these false teachers we see on the television they're on. They're not just on the TBN channels. They're also, they go to TV shows. They get hosted on secular TV shows as well, and they have had so many opportunities to declare the gospel, and they absolutely will not do it. Joel Osteen, he's on Larry King Live. They flat out asked him. So if somebody isn't a Christian, they won't go to heaven. And instead of saying, if somebody's not washed in the blood of the Lord Jesus Christ, they will not go to heaven. Could have told millions of people the truth. And he goes, that's not my place to judge.
Oh my.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to hurt his book sales. T.D. Jakes, I've never read too much into him, but he flat out refused to speak God's truth on gay marriage. And he's went on to say that his beliefs and his what he thinks about gay marriage is constantly evolving. I got bad news for him. The Bible doesn't evolve. And if your thoughts don't match up with the Bible, you're wrong. But he's a politician and a book salesman. Actually, I'm surprised he's not an alderman in Chicago, because that's what he comes off as. So yeah, but as far as a lot of preachers don't want to touch this, because they have a flock full of people on milk.
This one told me that the reason he don't think that people understand Revelation at all.
Well, isn't that his job as the preacher to relay the info to them? I mean, yeah, there is going to be some guesswork in here. There are things in here where I've told you, look, we don't know exactly what this means. But for the most part, I'd say 99.9% of Revelation, we understand what's happening. We know that this is going to be a 7-year period of God's wrath upon the earth, that this is going to be a rise of the Antichrist, that the book of Revelation is a warning for the churches, and then it is a guidebook for the Jews, or for the children of Israel, actually, because they're the ones that are going to be here on this earth trying to survive the Great Tribulation. So, that's just a cop out. That's a preacher who doesn't convince himself that he doesn't believe in Revelation, or that he doesn't understand it. I'm constantly learning on it. I told you when I started this, I've been studying this book since I was a little boy. I'd be in the back and the preacher's preaching. Once he started preaching too long, or I lost interest, boom, I started reading Revelation. I've read books upon books upon books on the book of Revelation. I've watched documentaries and Bible studies on Revelation. And as I continue to go through and put together my own lesson plan, guess what? I'm still learning more about it. One of the great things, I'm at that point where I'm learning more about God's character. We talked about this morning. God, things that I never knew about God that I see, like God likes copies. God is a big fan of copies. And if you don't believe me, read when Moses come down the mount with the 10 Commandments. What happened? He broke them. He went back up, came down with an exact copy. And that's what went into the ark. God likes copies. God likes boundaries. God prepares. He likes to prepare. And so I'm learning more and more about God's character as I go through and study His Word. So, yeah, to be honest with you, I think it's either because if He would say that His congregation wouldn't understand it, then He has a congregation full of people still on a bottle of milk. And that's a shame, because, now you can't always blame that on the pastor. There's people that absolutely refuse to ever give up the bottle. They're going to get saved at whatever age, and they're going to drink a bottle of milk of the gospel for the rest of their life. They are bound and determined never to progress towards baby food, towards solid food. Okay, you can't do anything about that, but there should be members in there that are getting the meat of the word. So that's the best way I can answer that. All right, so chapter 13. I want to make a correction last week because I've heard the terminology so much. It is not an unholy trinity, okay? We do not have an unholy trinity. There is only one trinity because the trinity is a triune. That means 3 in 1. We have an unholy trio. Okay? Satan, the Antichrist, the false prophet is an unholy trio, not an unholy trinity. But almost any book you see, because Satan tries to mimic God, it's just used as a generic reference. Okay? So they are 3 separate, but Satan does mimic this. We see his unholy trio unfolding because in chapter 12, what was happening? Satan was finally cast out of heaven. The accuser of the brethren will finally no longer have access to heaven, and he will be cast down to the earth midway through the tribulation. And man, is he going to be angry because he knows that his time is almost up, and he's going to take it out on Israel. All right, so chapter 13, the unholy trio. 13:1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Okay, the beast rises out of the sea. This is, remember when we went through the book of Daniel, this is the 10 toes of Daniel that we're seeing. Remember the statue of Nebuchadnezzar's dream? You had the golden head, which was Babylon, and then you had the silver chest, which was Medo-Persia, and then you had the bronze legs, which was Greece, and then you had I forget what the next one was, but the toes you had the steel, then you had the toes that were mixed with iron and clay. You had the iron and clay toes. That was the final installment, because remember the toes, that whole statue and those toes are going to be destroyed by the rock cut without hands, which is Jesus Christ. So Daniel was doing a foretelling of that. But this beast that they see rise up out of here is the 10 toes of Daniel chapter 2. This political leader, this Antichrist, is going to be so united with Satan that he is going to be ascribed the same authority that Satan had. Remember earlier in chapter 12, we saw behold the great red dragon, and he had 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns. And once again, the 7 heads means it's the number of completion. The 10 horns represent power, and 10 is the number of universality. Satan desires universal domination, and then 7 crowns, a complete rule over mankind. This Antichrist has these same attributes, these same qualities as the great red dragon, as Satan. So we see now the Antichrist has already been there, but remember the first 3.5 years he uses diplomacy. He uses diplomacy, and he uses his charisma, and he uses his speech to conquer nations. Remember, because he had a bow. He had a bow with no arrow, which means he's going to go forth in that first half of the tribulation. He will conquer without needing to use war. And we'll look at that here in a little bit more. So, but this political leader, this Antichrist, is so evil and so united with Satan that he will have these same attributes and these same characteristics as the devil himself. This is pure evil. If you've ever seen documentaries on serial killers, Trying to think, who was the guy that carved the pentagram in his hand out in California? Richard Ramirez. I mean, you look in his eyes, it's pure demonic evil. You would see in Hitler's eyes when he would be speaking, you could see that evil. Stalin, I mean, Stalin killed more people than Hitler did. You could see the evil in him. These guys are all going to pale in comparison to Antichrist. Yeah, brother.
Yeah, it's weird how that is too. I was playing basketball at the park one day and saw this kid looked evil as a few months later, maybe a couple of years later, I find out he's in prison right now for killing a teacher here in town. It's freaky how you can just see that. Yeah.
I, for one, still believe that there's demonic possession. I don't think that stopped. I really don't. Because there's people that just do. They've given themselves over. They have such a reprobate mind that they've allowed the demon to come in. It's kind of like when they cleansed him of the demonic spirit. He didn't refill anything. The room was all swept and kept empty. What happened? He came back with more unclean spirits with him than he had, and his condition was worse the second time than it was the first. So, yeah, this Antichrist is going to be the personification of evil. Okay, when it says they saw a beast rise out of the sea, they're going to see the sea just represents the kingdoms or the peoples of the world. Remember in chapter 12, the great dragon sent a flood after Israel that was symbolic of sending armies after Israel. So the same thing. You're going to see these kingdoms rise up you're going to see this beast rise up out of the kingdoms of the world. 13:2, it says, "And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were the feet of a bear, and his mouth is the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority." And so this goes back to Daniel chapter 7, verses 1 through 12, when they saw the different beasts. And the lion was Babylon, the bear was Medo-Persia, and the leopard was Greece. This beast is going to be so unique, it's going to have qualities of all these different kingdoms. This is the final time of the Gentiles. The time of the Gentiles is almost over. This is what we refer to as the revived Roman Empire, or the RRE. You're going to see it on the screen. I got tired of typing revived Roman Empire. I'm like, we use acronyms. I live with acronyms at my job, so let's start using them here. He's going to have extreme political power. Like I said, he's either going to be the head of the UN, he's going to be the head of the European Union, he's going to be an ambassador. Something's going to take place to where he's going to rise up when these calamities hit, right after the rapture, and is going to take over. Because what does mankind always look for? Always wanted somebody to rule over them, except God. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen, but they've always wanted somebody to rule over them except God. He even had Israel went to Samuel, make us a king so we be like other nations. He's like, you got God. God's your king. Nope, we want a king. So they're going to get what they want. He has this extreme political power. We'll look at that here a little bit more. Let's go to 13:3. The deadly wound. This is the one that a lot of people actually think that there's going to be an actual assassination attempt. This person is going to get shot in the head and they're going to come back to life. Now, I'm not going to say 100% that that's not going to happen, but I think when we look at everything that's transpiring, that's not the case. It says, "And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast." Okay. Remember that Rome did suffer decline. The Roman Empire started to decline. The city of Rome actually fell in 476 AD. And then what happened in 1993? Got it written up there. The European Union was formed. No. Oh, now we do.
We're on the last verse.
Yeah. 11/1/1993, the European Union was formed. Rome, even though it declined and it looked like it was dead, has managed to somewhat exist in some form or some capacity. I bring back my belief that the United States and that Central America and South America, that the Americas themselves will be aligned with Antichrist. Because who's come over and settled and took the new world from the natives? Europe. You had England and France took the north, and Spain took the south. But it was founded by Europe. Currently, the European Union has 28 members. Everybody's hung out on the number 10. Okay? It doesn't mean there only has to be 10 members of the European Union. Okay? This 10 toes simply represent, well, how many toes does a person have? They have 10. And 10 also is the number of universality. So it doesn't necessarily have to be 10, but I will tell you, keep a close eye. I don't watch regular news feed. I couldn't tell you what's going on here in Michigan City. I don't read whatever our news dispatch, I think is the name of it. I don't read it. I definitely don't watch any of the local news channels, Fox News, CNBC, and I definitely do not watch CNN because that's fake news. I watch world news. I watch world events. I go through websites and see what's going on. There's a lot of turmoil within the European Union. And if you haven't been watching it, the European Union has been flooding Europe with migrants from mostly the Middle East. Germany, Sweden, a lot of these countries have a huge rape epidemic now. Sweden is now the rape capital of the world. And it's the migrants that are coming in because that's part of their culture. Because women aren't supposed to walk around, showing any skin. They deserve to be raped according to Islamic teachings. So you got a lot of turmoil in there. You got countries like Poland, Czechoslovakia or Czech Republic, whatever it's called now. They're refusing to take, and Hungary, they're refusing to take migrants in. So the European Union's really busting at the seams right now. But all said and that, it's still there. It still exists. It's European Union. And this plan for one world government goes back to actually the early 1800s. This is not a new concept. It was in the early 1800s when they tried to form the first League of Nations. And the Romanovs stepped in and shot it down. 100 years later, does anybody know what happened to the Romanovs? They're gone. They don't exist anymore. They were wiped out. The Romanovs were the ruling dynasty of Russia. And so what happened after World War I? You got a new League of Nations. But by the grace of God, Congress, who was still doing their jobs back then, kept the United States out of the League of Nations, much to the displeasure of Colonel House, who was the handler of Woodrow Wilson, trying to promote this New World Order. So that wasn't good enough, so we had World War II, and then you had the United Nations, or what I refer to as the United Abominations. And now we have this European Union. Like I said, I'm a firm believer in the United States being part of the RRE, the Revived Roman Empire. For one thing, and I've pointed this out before, but for those that weren't here last week or have missed weeks, what's the state of America right now? What's the spiritual state of the United States? Somebody please tell me what the spiritual state is in this country. Would anybody say it's good? No. What happens when you remove the born-again Christians out of this country? All at once. In a rapture. You're going to have total spiritual apostasy. Is there anybody going to rise up and not want to join this Antichrist? No, because the people that would try and stop it will be gone. Okay. Everybody talks about our military and this and that. No, I'm telling you right now, you look at the spiritual apostasy that we have going on in this country is sickening. More and more public libraries now are starting to have drag queen reading story time, where people take their children into a public library to be read books about homosexuality by a homosexual. Let's just call them what they are. A sodomite. Let's call it what it is. A sodomite reading stories to indoctrinate your children. All in the name of diversity and inclusiveness. I got news for you. Jesus Christ was very divisive. He said, I came to bring a sword. He said, those that are not with me are against me. It is sickening. That's just the tip of the iceberg on what's going on in this country. Anybody is fooling themselves if they don't think that this country won't run right up if the Antichrist isn't from America to begin with. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. Like I said, after the rapture, the world's going to wonder after the revived Roman Empire, because you're going to have this huge calamity with millions of people disappearing at once. And then we're going to start in with all these natural disasters that are hitting. And somehow, the RRE is either not going to be greatly affected or it's going to quickly recover during this beginning of the tribulation, almost supernaturally. So it's going to give them a reason to even look towards them for hope and for help. Does that make sense? So I do not believe that it's the Antichrist being an assassination attempt and he comes back to life. It doesn't fit the picture. I see it more of this revived Roman Empire coming out of the rapture standing strong. You've got all these other countries decimated. They're lost. They're terrified. Now you've got all these plagues and everything that's hitting. And here's hey, we're doing good up here. We'll take care of you. Just sign this peace treaty and give me your weapons. Hey, think about it. Let's talk our military. Imagine the military might of the United States, Europe, Central and South America, and parts of the Middle East and Africa combined. Really? That's massive. 13:4. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast, and who is able to make war with him? They realize Antichrist receives his power. They know where his power is really coming from because they're going to worship the dragon. Satan's going to get what he's always wanted. And it's out in the open now. It's out in the open. Used to, when people talk satanic cults, people would get scared. They'd lock their doors. They didn't want their kids wandering off into the woods somewhere because there were some people out there killing animals and wearing black robes. And now they're putting statues up in City Hall in Oklahoma City. In doing so, they not only worship the dragon, they ascribe omnipotence and invisibility to the Antichrist. It says, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Well, he's going to have a really, really powerful army on his side at his command. And he's not even having to use it. Maybe the threat of it, but in that first half of the tribulation, he doesn't even have to use his military might. 13:5. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. Okay, so this last half of the tribulation, once Satan is cast out of heaven, now the Antichrist is going to break that peace treaty with Israel. And now comes the bloodshed. He will rule with power for the last half of the tribulation. Now he's going to have that military might. It almost seems like he's going to convince the world to either dismantle their nuclear weapons or give them over to him. But he's going to have this army that is just massive. Verse 6, And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. He's going to blaspheme both God and he's going to blaspheme the saints whom Jesus Christ came to take home with him at the rapture. Those that are with him. That's going to be us. Go ahead and blaspheme me. I'm up there with Jesus Christ. I'm good. 7. And was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. There's going to be saints on the earth, right? We already know that there's, at a minimum, 144,000 sealed of the 12 tribes of Israel. He's going to wage war with these people that have accepted Christ in this first half of the tribulation. And he's going to have the ability to kill them. Remember when we first started Revelation, we talked about the ones who died during the tribulation? These are those ones that they were referring to. It is not going to be fun. If anybody out there, if you know somebody that has a plan that says, I'm just going to wait till after the rapture, I'm going to get saved during the tribulation, they have no idea what they're saying. For number one, they won't do it. Because they'll be the first ones to get that strong delusion that God's going to send them because they knew the truth and they rejected it. 8. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Like I said, people have always worshipped man, but now it's going to be on a global scale. And it's been going on. We don't know exactly who the rulers were prior to the flood, but Enoch prophesied against them. And then after the flood, you had Ham's grandson. They go down there and they build that Tower of Babel. And then you had King Nebuchadnezzar, and then you had the king of Persia, then you had the king of Greece, and then you had, what did all those Caesars do? They proclaimed themselves to be God. The Pharaohs, they claimed they were God. Man has always wanted to be worshipped, and now they're going to do it on a global scale. 9 and 10. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Okay, the Antichrist's way is going to be worldwide, but so is the call to hear. Remember, in the beginning of this book, the 3 things we were commanded to do? Instead of ask, seek, and knock, it was, anybody remember? Read, hear, and keep. The call to hear. The saints that are on the earth during the Great Tribulation are to refrain from physical battle. See, like right now, I don't know if you guys don't follow the type of news that I follow, but over in the People's Republic of Illinois, there is a city in there that is trying to make an ordinance to ban all rifles, where they're literally going to try and go door to door to get a rifle. Well, yeah, see, Terry says that, and I say that too, because right now, if they make an ordinance in Michigan City that we got to surrender our firearms, guess what? No, we'll take it from my cold dead hand. The people in the Great Tribulation, they don't get that option. What does it say right there? Here is the patience and faith of the saints. He that killed with the sword must be killed with the sword. They're going to have to go like lambs to the slaughter. Kind of like the Jews when the Nazis would roll into town. Poland. Look what they did in Poland. They came in, all the Jews had to go registered. The ones load them up on boxcars, and off they went, like cattle. Cattle to the slaughter. 13:11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And so here's the last part of the unholy trio. This is the beast from the earth. This is the false prophet. So you're going to have Satan, the dragon, you've got Antichrist or the beast, and then you have this second beast, or is also known as the false prophet. That is the unholy trio. Satan always trying to mimic God. Now notice that the beast came up out of the sea at the beginning of chapter 13. This beast comes up out of the earth. And so when we think of earth, they're looking at the land of promise. Somehow, some way, this false prophet has some sort of claim to Israel. And I don't know if he's going to be Jewish, if he's from the tribe of Dan. You guys do know you can go on Ancestry.com now, and they'll send you a cotton swab, and you can swab yourself and mail it off, and they can go back, I forget how far back, and trace your DNA to see how far back your ancestry goes. So one way or the other, this beast has some connection to Israel, this false prophet. And if you really think about that, they're probably going to have a DNA test on everybody, maybe mandated here before too long. They're getting everything ready. He has 2 horns like a lamb. This false prophet does. Satan's minions are able to pass themselves off as messengers of light. Just look at some of the false prophets I have listed here. Benny Hinn, Joel Osteen, T.D. Jakes, just to name a few of these false prophets who They take some of God's truth, they take a little bit of it, just a pinch, they put it out there on top, and then once they've got somebody on the hook, then comes all their false teachings. And that's how Satan's minions work. 12, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. He will work with Antichrist to get the major religions that are still left on this earth to instantly worship him. This is nothing new. This pope that we currently have, or that they currently have, I should say, or that we have here on this earth, because we're Baptists, we have no pope. Amen. He's not the first to try and create an ecumenical belief system. And that's simply an amalgamation of all the different religions. Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Catholicism, and of course they try to push Christianity in there, and you wouldn't believe how many denominations are actually in that same league with them. It's sickening. But that's going to be his goal, and he's going to have these same powers. He's going to have these weird abilities. And 13:13, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men. He's going to be able to imitate miracles in order to deceive people. 14 and 15, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. This image. Mankind, after centuries of worshiping idols, this false prophet is actually going to be able to use satanic forces, and this idol is finally going to speak. The image will not only speak, notice what it says. It says, and cause the beast, or the image of the beast should both speak, comma, and cause that as many would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Anybody who won't worship this image is going to be killed. It's like Nebuchadnezzar. Remember, anybody who wouldn't bow down to that golden image he had made, they're going to be thrown into the fiery furnace. History repeats itself. (16-18). And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of man, and his number is 666. This is one of the ones that everybody knows about. I mean, secular society knows about the mark of the beast. I can take you to prison right now in there and take you to inmates that have 666 tattooed on their face. One guy, he has it on both sides of his face. 666 on his right cheek, 666 on his left cheek. You got guys that got it tattooed on their foreheads or on the back of their head, on their arms. Iron Maiden wrote a song about it. I mean, this is very well known, a very well known specific part of prophecy. Of course, the guy that's got tattooed on his cheeks, I haven't had the heart to tell him that it's supposed to be in, and it's got to be the forehead or the hand. It doesn't count. There's something obviously wrong with him, so obviously leave him alone. The mark, notice that all must receive it. It doesn't matter what their position is in the world now. Okay, this 1% of the world, like 1% of the world owns 99% of the wealth right now in the current situation. Even the Rothschilds, who own the banking systems, they will have to take this mark. That's how much power this Antichrist is going to have. That the uber elite on this planet who are running everything right now will bow down before this Antichrist, or they will be killed. The poor must receive the mark. Everybody will have to receive this mark. Notice the King James Version does not say on. It says in the hand or in the forehead. It does not say on. It's as in. Now there's a big difference on that, because does anybody know what their people are willingly doing now? It's about the size of a grain of rice. Yes, microchipped. They're voluntarily getting themselves microchipped, and guess where it goes? It goes in this fatty part of your hand, in your hand, between the thumb and the forefinger. Right there's where that microchip goes. Now, I'm not saying the mark is a microchip. I'm simply saying there's a good probability it could be, because of the differences in the word here, on and in. But think about what they could do with a microchip. For one, you can be tracked anywhere. And the days of being able to go out and try and survive, I know we make jokes about me disappearing into the woods. If law enforcement really wants to find you, they can find you. They got satellite imagery. Heat sensing satellite imagery. They can find you. There will be nowhere to run on this earth. And there's going to be natural disasters going on everywhere. What was it? A third of the water won't even be drinkable.
You can do Google Earth
Yeah.
right there.
So, yeah, this mark of the beast, 666. 7 is the number of completion, so 6 falls short. 6 is man's number. Notice it says the mark, or the name, or the number. And anyone who receives this mark is damned. There is no repentance once this mark has been taken. Anyone who takes the mark will be cast into a lake of fire. He's going to have a grip on humanity. We're going to have the rapture of the church, which is going to cause catastrophe worldwide. Now you think about it. What happens if your pilot is a Christian? What happens if the guy...
to make sure that at least one pilot was a Christian and one pilot was lost?
Well, you know, they did it. They did it now where all our pilots may not be Christians at all, so we may not worry about any contract.
I feel like they did that back in the day.
Might have. I mean, you're going to have calamity. And you're going to have calamity everywhere because there's Christians everywhere. There's not just Christians in the United States. But you're going to have calamities everywhere. And then you're going to launch right into these judgments. And it's going to be the most chaotic time in the history of mankind, and they're going to be searching for a Savior when they're denying God. And up comes this Antichrist, who's, like I said, he's going to be the most charismatic speaker to ever set foot on this earth. And they are going to give him the worship, they're going to give him the praise, they're going to give him all power, and they're going to take his mark. And they're going to think they're living in a better society, an inclusive society, where diversity and is respected and welcomed. A borderless society. A one world government. A one world government ran by a one world dictator. And it will be hell on earth. And the people who waited to get saved, and the people who never got an opportunity to get saved, are going to suffer tribulation that has never been experienced before. You know, Rome was very good at what they did. They used to put people in these big brass animals like bulls and put them out in the sun and just let them burn to death. Or they would put them in nets and let the bulls run through and gore them to death. And it won't compare to the murder and death that we're going to see in these 7 years, the last 7 years of humanity.